You're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It is February the 2nd, 2023 at 1:01 p.m. 13 hours. Very hard to chair this week since it's quarter since June field. So we'll be right today while I'm on this meeting. I'm going to call and ask Shireen to call the roll for us.
Parker.
I'm present.
Sukaki Charlie.
Here.
Jackie Conway. Alfreda Jake. Tashina Jim. Wayne Masters Sr. Ron Pelt. Marian Perez. Kenneth Pointer.
Present.
Ross Rivera. Hi, Ross. Ross, can you wave? I see ya. You're still muted. Daniel Thayer.
Present.
David Fogerson.
Present.
Emily Gold. Oh, sorry.
Rachel Marquetti and Faith Beekman are both here for Emily.
Thank you.
No problem.
Samantha Lai.
Here.
And Shireen, while you're doing that, can we do a sound check with everyone? How's we sounding, Samantha? We sound better than what we saw earlier.
Dave, I don't know what you said. Can anyone else hear Dave? Is it just me or is it everybody?
He's
I'm
kind of broken up.
I'm getting
Okay.
everything garbled as well.
Very garbled.
Oh, okay, good. It's not just me then. I don't know what we need to do, Dave, but it's hard to make out what you're saying.
Stand by one while we take a look at what we can do.
This is Marian Perez with the Decorator Shoshone Tribe.
Thank you.
How about now? Can you guys hear us now?
Yes.
Way better.
Okay. Sorry, we had the wrong wrong speaker selected or wrong microphone selected. So we'll redo the rolls that way we make sure we get everybody. So Shireen, if we can restart the roll at 13:04, please.
Okay. Harriet Parker.
Hello, I'm present.
Sukaki Charlie.
Here.
Jackie Conway. Alfreda Jake.
Present.
Tashina Jim. Dwayne Masters Sr.
Here.
Don Pelt. Marian Perez.
I'm here.
Kenneth Kleiner.
Here.
Ross Rivera. He's having audio difficulties. I see him waving. Daniel Thayer.
Present.
David Fogerson.
Present.
And then Emily Gold.
Rachel Marquetti and Faith Beekman on behalf of Emily.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Perfect, thank you. We'll move to item number 2, which is public comment. This is discussion only. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under the item of this agenda until this matter itself has been specifically included on the agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person at the discretion of the co-chairs. Comments will not be restricted based upon viewpoint. To provide testimony during this period of public comment via telephone, please call in after the set time with the number that's on the agenda. And remember, you have to hit *6 to unmute yourself if you're on the phone. *6 if you're on the phone to unmute yourself. I'd like to first go to Mr. Thayer. He has a opening public comment for us.
Okay, I just wanted to show respect for one of our former emergency managers. He passed away January 26th. I'm talking about Rupert Steele. He touched many hearts, as a role model in our culture, traditional ways, and also with the Shoshone language. He will be remembered as a chief, and he was very well respected and valued throughout Indian country. Uncle, you're going to be missed, but your teachings are going to live on. And, us as tribal people, we always stress for our younger generation to start learning our language and also our culture, traditional ways, medicines, and plants. And with Rupert, when he passed, he took a lot of that with him, that, a lot of it left with him that would probably be never, be revisited again. But I did want to do a moment of silence for him out of respect. And we pray for his family and his friends, his tribe, and throughout Indian country. He touched a lot of people. So I just want to do a moment of silence for him. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Go to Shireen. Was there any public comment provided?
No, there was not.
Okay. I'll go to the Zoom environment. Is there anybody in Zoom world that has a public comment for us?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, Ross. Go right ahead, sir.
No public comment. I just didn't know if you guys muted me because I spoke too much at one meeting or what was going on.
You make fun of somebody one time and you hear about it for the rest of your life. I love this place. Anybody on the phone? Remember, if you're on the phone and you want to give public comment, it's *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, hearing no public comments, I'll move on to item number 3. This is approval of minutes. It is discussion for possible action. NTECC will review and discuss the minutes from our November 2nd, 2022 meeting. We'll determine whether to approve the meeting minutes. Ms. Parker, you have your hand raised.
Yes, sir. Forgive my appearance. I'm really under the weather and I'm at home in bed, actually. I do have some corrections or edits from the minutes. I started them last week before I was not feeling well, and I left them on my desk. I do have some, like I said, corrections. They are mainly grammar, just a couple things that just needed a word change, really, but I wasn't able to get those to Shireen before the meeting. So I just wanted to put that out there. There were a couple, not a lot, but just a couple. So I just wanted to mention that.
Well, would you like to make a motion to table the minutes until the next meetings? That way we can then get those corrections on record for everyone.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
make the motion.
Okay, I have a motion from Harriet and a second from Danny. Any discussion on the motion to table the minutes until next meeting? Okay, all in favor of tabling, which I believe I can do without having to go to a vote, but just to make sure, I'm looking at a smile on my lawyer's face, so I'm sure that I probably could have done it without it. So all in favor of tabling, say yes or aye.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, we will table the minutes until next meeting. Thank you, Harriet. Okay, item number 4, this is a cybersecurity task force update. NTECC will hear a briefing on a cybersecurity task force meeting that was held on January 9th, 2023. Supposedly, we're supposed to have heard today from Tim Robb, but he was double booked. And so he asked me to give an update. We did have a cybersecurity task force meeting on January 9th. At that task force meeting, we talked about the lanes of travel for cybersecurity because it is, well, everyone's got a piece of cybersecurity, but we talked about whose lane is it. The intelligence side comes from our law enforcement and our fusion centers and the guards with their SOCs. Then we talked about the abilities of each of the different OCDC, which we're going to hear about here in a minute, EATS for the state side, and then CISA from the federal side. And they're really worried about protecting the system, making sure we're all educated and prepared to not do the things that allow people to have access to our systems. And then we talked about that response recovery side, that is that domain of emergency management, homeland security, enterprise, along with our Nevada National Guard partners, to when something bad happens and someone turns all the streetlights in Vegas green, and we now manage that consequence while we are still working on fixing that network as well. So we talked about those different lanes of travel. We talked about the difference between the preemptive stuff that, especially you're gonna hear about here from Akeen in the next agenda item, and then the response side when we get into how do we take care of those issues. It was a fairly decent meeting, about 40 minutes, I think, in length, and a lot of good information was had at that meeting. And we will have another one here shortly as we move forward. We are still awaiting approval of the cybersecurity plan that our cybersecurity folks from EATS and OCDC and then that work group approved, or the task force approved. We're still waiting to hear word back from CISA, whether they approve it, and then we'll be able to open the grant funding up for that. CISA and FEMA have told us that there will be funding specifically for tribal nations separate from the states. I haven't seen anything on that, so maybe we can tag that to Crystal to talk about her FEMA update to get us some details. So that way we ensure that we don't forget the tribal nations, but we don't have a problem either with the state making sure that we take care of our tribal partners with that cybersecurity funds as well. End of report, pending any questions from anyone. Okay, see no questions. I'll move on to item number 5. This is the Office of Cyber Defense and Coordination. Administrator Akeen Patel will discuss the purpose of the Office of Civil Defense, Cyber Defense and Coordination, and how it can assist tribal nations throughout Nevada. And we are really blessed with a new director or new administrator for cybersecurity for the state. And he is a pure gentleman, helping all of us getting through navigating this field where a lot of people feel kind of nervous in. So I'll turn it over to Akeen.
Thank you, Dave. As Dave said, I am new to the Office of Cyber Defense and Coordination, and I have a lot of big plans for the office. Hopefully, I can actually start putting a lot of programs in place to help the various entities as they need. I want to talk a little bit about what the goal of the office is and how we aim to actually put that support into place for the various groups out here. And so the Nevada Office of Cyber Defense Coordination is there to act as the cross-entity cybersecurity advice and support group for all the various entities across the state of Nevada. We're not an enforcement group. We're here to actually provide assistance services and advisory capacity for the groups as they need, and to coordinate between entities as needed, which is actually a pretty important point there. Like, we're not there to enforce regulations on the various groups. We're there to be a support for the groups that are out there. Next slide. Yeah, so we've started up a couple of programs already. We started putting out a bi-weekly a Nevada-focused cyber threat intelligence briefing, which, if you are not on, please reach out to me and I'll have contact information at the end of this set of slides and we'll get you on there. We also are starting up the incident plan repository, which is just a collection of incident response plans from all the various entities in the state. And this is actually mandated that we collect that based on NRS statutes. So we will be reaching out to the various groups to like get a copy of their plan or just a status of their plan if they don't have a plan, because we know a lot of groups are still in the process of actually developing that, which is fine. We just want to create a list of where the groups are with, and if we can provide templates or assistance in providing them in helping develop that plan, we will. And we're also coordinating with the governor's office and the Nevada chapter of the National Guard to build out incident response capabilities to assist the various entities in case of incident, in case there's a cybersecurity incident, they need assistance in their response. Next slide. We have a lot of plans coming up for services that we can offer. We're looking at doing coordinated assistance services of various security services, such as like scanning and assessments. We're looking at assisting with resiliency and defense planning and cybersecurity architecture, and as well as ways to like assist using efficiencies of scale across various entities to like make group purchases or other ways in which we can benefit with multiple entities working together to achieve their cybersecurity goals. We're also looking at setting up training and actually like creation of like tool sets that various groups can deploy in like a pre-configured fashion. And I think that's it for me for the next. Yeah, so here's my contact information. That's my cell phone and my email address. We also, I need to update the slide because we also now got a new email address. I'll reach out to the entire group as a whole. It's ocdc@ocdc.nv.gov. Will reach all of us. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts on how we can help. Any suggestions and programs you'd like to see. As I'm building this department out and the services out, I'm very interested in getting feedback on what would be beneficial to the various groups across the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Akeem. As he said, and as I kind of alluded to, we're blessed with having his professionalism at the state with what his background is. He's not an IT person trying to do cybersecurity. He's not an emergency manager trying to spell cybersecurity. His entire background has been about cybersecurity and comes from a diverse background that gives him the ability to actually, how do I prevent that threat from happening in your environment? A great resource, a good friend to all of us, pretty easy to talk to. He's even made some computer things understandable to me when I've asked him a couple of questions. So please reach out to Akeem if you have questions. And does anybody have any questions here in the meeting for him? Okay, see no questions. Anything else there from you, Akeem? If not, thank you very much.
No, that's good for me. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 6. This is the Nevada Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security's Tribal Equity and Engagement Strategy. We're going to discuss and we're going to have an overview of the new Tribal Engagement and Equity Strategy. So everyone should have in your handouts, and I believe I emailed this out to everyone separately about 2 months ago. I wanted to have something that said how we engage to make sure that not a binding document, but a document that shows how we work together to make sure that you can see efforts we're trying to take. And it ties back into a lot of what we heard from Heather Lafferty. I always say her last name incorrectly, so I want to make sure I got it right. Who's our access, functional needs, and diversity, equity, and inclusion employee when she presented. So we took a lot of what she talked about. We asked our state tribal liaisons to come up with some items. And so we came up with a list of that in equity and inclusion to make sure that we're adequately representing what we need to do to help tribal nations and all Nevada residents and tourists. So hopefully everyone had a chance to look at it. Would love to have any feedback from you. And anything that Bill wants to say, because I think you have a little bit to do with this too, Bill?
I don't have anything to say at the moment. Thanks.
So just, it's not an action item, but I wanted to make sure that we threw this out there so that way you could see it, and willing for any comments or any questions from anybody on the council. Okay, seeing and hearing none, I'm gonna make this an official document for the division. We'll post it on our website. And as you come up with changes, the reason why I didn't want to be adopted by the committee, because it really is my direction to staff on how I want to conduct our operations. So if you have changes, you have thoughts, you let me know. We can talk it out and we can see how we meet that requirement or that expectation between the two of us. And hopefully this gets everyone, especially the division staff, to understand the importance and the relationship that the division has with their tribal nations. So now we'll move to item number 7, this discussion on status of the division's effort to assist our tribal nations. We're interested in hearing feedback on the status of the programs we provide as they relate to tribal nation protection, prevention, response, mitigation, recovery efforts for emergency management, homeland security, and public health preparedness. Members are encouraged to discuss ways that we can improve our efforts to support our needs. And I'll be soliciting input from anybody, just like we do every meeting. Love to hear from you. Not worried about how great we're doing. I'm worried about where we're falling down and how we get better to serve you better. And open to any and all comments. Okay, hearing no comments. You guys know my phone number. You know my email. Most of you guys know my home phone number too. So feel free to reach out if you come up with ideas on how we can improve. You know, Bill Elliott, you know, Jay and Josie, all you gotta do is make a call. We're here to help and we want to get better. So if you find something that we can do better tomorrow than what we're doing today, please let us know. We're open for that input. We'll go to item number 8. This discussion of bill draft request for the 2023 session. We'll share the bill draft request that the division submitted and solicit input from NTECC and the legislative needs. So also in your packet, you should have a list of all the bills we have found so far in the legislative section that affects emergency management, public safety, homeland security. We have some keywords that we're searching for. The ones that were highlighted are the bills that are promoted by that were written by the division. And we're starting to have hearings on that. I believe we have 3 hearings coming up next week on our bills already. So we have Assembly Bill 2, I'm sorry. Well, the highlights are a little off. I apologize for that. We have Assembly Bill 43. This revises provisions relating to school emergency operation plans. This bill cleans up some of the due dates and the outline of when the school plan is required to make it more convenient for the schools. Megan Hall, our planning specialist, has worked very hard with the school communities to get that feedback to make that correct. SB 2 revises provisions related to emergency management. This one cleans up the State Disaster Identification Coordination Committee. So that way we add back in some language providing the ability to share protected health information post-disaster. So that way we can help with family reunification. SB 3 revises membership in Nevada Commission on Homeland Security. When the division moved out of the Department of Public Safety over to the Office of the Military, the Department of Public Safety lost their voice in the Homeland Security Commission. And so this adds an additional member of the Homeland Security Commission at the discretion of the governor, who is a member of the Department of Public Safety. SB 5 authorizes the Division of Emergency Management to use money in the emergency assistance account. This bill we created because every state agency has a budget account called the emergency assistance account. However, in our section, we also define emergency in our section. And so there's some confusion in some people's minds on whether or not we can access the emergency assistance account when we're not in a declared disaster by the governor, which is the definition of emergency under our chapter. Other state agencies such as Nevada Division of Forestry gets to use that EAA account without any restrictions. Ours is somewhat cloudy because of that definition that's in there. So this bill along with one from the interim healthcare committee, works to try to clarify that status. That way, when you call and you need help, we can actually do that without having to have the governor declare disaster to spend money to help you. And then there's some BDRs that have not been released yet. There's no samples of what they say yet, but there are a couple there that are related to emergency management. We're assuming that BDR 20 and 3692 will probably be related to how long the governor can declare disaster for, similar to what we saw last session. And then that BDR 36335 that's highlighted, that's from the interim healthcare committee, and that's to help us be able to spend money to disaster. That was one of the issues we ran into during the COVID pandemic, was a continual discussion on whether or not the division could actually spend money to buy that PPE or not, even though it was a true need for all of us. So what we're going to do is we'll keep this list going. I don't know if we can provide regular updates to everyone in between the commission meeting or between our council meetings, but feel free to log on to the Nevada legislature site. You can go to the Nellis program, so you can start looking up the bills to see which ones are of interest to you. And if there's something of interest to you, please let us know about it as well. We're kind of maintaining two lists. One, a list like this that has everything related to anything that might touch us. And they're going to make a more narrow, defined list of ones that we want to make sure division staff member is on top of to keep us in a loop. So that's the status of our legislation. Legislative session starts on Monday and runs for a whopping 120 days. And so people will be really, really busy here in Carson City running around trying to meet all those requirements. Does anybody have any questions or any ideas or thoughts or feedback on any of the budget, the bill draft requests that are out there? Okay, we'll go on to item number 9 then. And this is an update on tribal health preparedness efforts from the Public Health Preparedness Program. I am assuming either Faith or Rachel will give that update.
It's going to be me today, Rachel.
Thank you.
No problem. I just wanted to let everyone know we did get a date set for the Rural Preparedness Summit this summer. It's going to be June 14th and 15th. And the save the date is actually included in the meeting materials. Breakfast and lunch are going to be included for that, as well as travel can be reimbursed just like every other year has been. So that's going to be the same. More details will come to follow within the next few months. Thank you very much for sharing that. And then if anybody has any recommendations or suggestions as far as tribal specific topics or trainings that you think would go along with re-engaging with the communities, then please reach out to Josie and Jay and just let us know. We would love to get your feedback and work in anything that you think would be beneficial to have this year. And then we also were able to relocate one of our PHP team members down to Southern Nevada so that he'll have easier access to all of our jurisdictions down there on a regular basis. Some of you may have already met him. That was Doug Dame. And so now he's located down south. So he is local, so we can go ahead and get him closer to folks as we need to, and he's able to participate down there without having to make the trip each time. And then also there's been a creation of the PHP hazmat response trailer for both county and tribal use-based emergencies. So if there are any materials in particular that you would like to see placed inside that trailer, please go ahead and reach out to Amos Holler. If you need his email address, I can pop that into the chat for you. But it's aholler@health.nv.gov. If for any reason someone doesn't have it, but I will also place it into the chat. Or you can also follow normal requesting procedures and just send it to the SFA email. But that's all you would need to do in order to request the trailer as well. If for any reason you need it later on down the road, you would just go ahead and shoot an email over to the SFA email, and we would make sure that that's accessible to you. And then there is a MERC unit available for deployment during emergencies through an ESF-8 request as well. So the same thing, you would just send the ESF-8 email a request. And then the mortuary enhanced remains cooling unit would be able to be sent out to assist with storing capacity as needed for any MCIs or medical emergency events. So you would just request that as you would any other resource through the ESFA email. And that is all I have for updates at this point, but I will pop Amos's email into the chat for anybody who needs it.
Don't put it in the chat, please, in a public meeting. We're not supposed to use
Nope.
the chat function.
No worries. I'll send it directly to you.
Yeah, we'll share it
You
out.
can share it. You got it. And that's it.
Thank you, Rachel. Is any questions for Rachel? Oh, I do have a question for you, Rachel, on that MERC unit. Have you guys coordinated with the State Disaster Identification Coordination Committee, who has the legal responsibility for that mortuary stuff and coordinates the medical examiners and the coroners for the state?
I'll find out the details on that. I know Amos was doing some work on it, so I think that he got most of it hammered down, but I'll find out and see if he had any additional as far as who it falls on for the final.
Okay, have them coordinate with Melissa from our office. She's the
Okay.
She runs the State Disaster Identification Coordination Committee. And so that would be an essential piece for them to discuss with the 2 medical examiners and the 14 coroners.
You got it. I wrote it down and I'll let him know. No problem.
Okay, any other questions for Rachel? Okay, we'll move on to item number 10. This is updates from the Intertribal Council of Nevada. And we're going to hear an update of their activities. Sorry, I'm just trying to shorten and not have to say all the stuff on the agenda. Go ahead.
That's fine. Yeah, for the record, Clifford Banuelos, Tribal State Environmental Liaison for the Intertribal Council of Nevada. And yeah, so Intertribal Council of Nevada and Intertribal Council of Arizona for the last 4 years have coordinated on this 40-hour HAZWOPER, and it's been pretty successful. And along with that, the 8-hour refresher. Usually the 40 hours in late March usually, and then the refresh is usually in September. And during COVID, we gave a virtual option for the 8-hour, but we want this 40-hour to always be in person, mainly because decon and all the other stuff that like putting on your hazmat suits and stuff really helps if it's in person. So it's a yearly thing, and we just submitted grants for 2024, and it's going to be ongoing then. So this is just kind of a yearly thing and a reminder. So I'm taking down for Nevada, people interested in this training. It is going to be at New York Hotel Casino. And I think we have 32 rooms reserved. And I'm not sure what the class size limit is, but generally, I don't think the trainer likes to go over 34, 35 people per. We'll be taking names. If not me, you can send directed to Brian Davidson from ITCA. And then also, I just want to make a comment. I know it's not public comment period, but just being in tribal emergency management for over 20 years now, I'm just reminded of that. To successfully engage the tribes, I'm looking at what was actually best practices, what actually worked. And CERT and Citizen Corps worked. Tribes really were actively engaged when we were really focusing on CERT training, and it got the communities engaged into TERCs, into Tribal Emergency Response Committee meetings, because the community was engaged. And I would stress looking at Citizen Corps and CERT for kind of a training on the tribal side before we really get things going. I could think like EMI, Anniston, but I really think CERT would be a successful route right now.
Any questions for Clifford? Oh, thank you, sir. Any questions for Clifford? Okay, we'll move on to item number 11. This is update from the Nevada Indian Commission. We'll hear an update of NTECC activities related to the support of tribal emergency management health clinics.
Hello, Serena Nats for the record for Stacy Montooth, our executive director. We have sent out what I shared with Shireen with the updated tribal leaders contact list that has all of our tribal leaders that were newly appointed. There are some that we are still trying to get updated information on, specifically Chair Steele, since he has passed, and we assume that would be the vice chair, but we're waiting for confirmation on that. Other than that, we have Nevada Tribes Day coming up on February 14th at the legislature in Carson City. anyone and everyone is welcome to come. There will be, I believe at this time, 5 tribal leaders have confirmed to be attending that day. If there's any other questions that you would have for me, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, I do have some comments here from the room from Jay. I think he's got an update on that, Chair.
So right now, Go Shoot's acting chairman is Amos Murphy, and I do have his contact info if you need it. Oh, sorry, can you hear me? Jay Martin here for the record.
Very low, Jay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that's Amos Murphy. Amos Murphy is acting chair for Go Shoot right now. And I just got his contact info today. So they are, they have done their reorganization, and I believe he is officially recognized right now.
Great, thank you very much.
Awesome. Any questions for the Nevada Indian Commission?
Hi, Serena. This is Crystal Hardjo from Region 9. Is there any updates on that position you guys had open for your public health educator?
We are going to be rerunning that recruitment. We didn't have the response that we had hoped for, so we are working with HR to get that recruitment rerun.
Thank you for that update. If you don't mind, could you send that information over to the NTECC staff? The Division of Emergency Management are kind of doing a one-stop shop for employment opportunities, and I think that would be a great one to go out.
Of course, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Nevada Indian Commission? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move to item number 12. This is Nevada Public Body Updates. We'll get an update from the various public bodies that have initiatives and projects that impact Nevada tribes. And the first one is the Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee. And I just threw John Backdahl under the bus because I realized I wasn't at the last meeting, he was. But I know from the agenda that it was fairly close to what this current agenda is on NTECC, because we're trying to mirror the agendas fairly well and just discuss the differences here with our tribal nations that affect the tribal nations that would affect the whole of the community. So we're a little more tailored to your needs. So John, is there anything from NRAC that came up that's different than what we're talking about today?
So it's John Backdahl for the record from DEM. As Dave mentioned, the agenda was very similar to this, minus the 3 tribal support agencies that help support this commission or this council. We had the same cyber defense presentation that you all saw today. We continued on through the different report outs from the other, cybersecurity task force from Tim Roth from the governor's office. Again, similar to information that you've been hearing along the way of making sure that there's coordination from local, state, federal, and private sector in that organization. We didn't have any real forward information that would directly impact the tribes, but all of the information from that meeting is available in the minutes, probably in the next week or 2. So if there's any questions or concerns, please reach out to Dave, Shireen, or I, and we can make sure you get a copy of the minutes. But there was no direct tribal impacts or changes.
Thanks for letting me push you under the bus, John, with no notice. So we'll go to B, this is Nevada Commission of Homeland Security, and Harriet asked me to give this update as we're both on that commission, but she's feeling under the weather. So we discussed the status of the incident management assistant teams and NIMS training that the division conducts for the state. And we did discuss at that meeting about the tribal nations that are part of 414A, the mutual aid plan. We're always encouraging tribal nations to opt in. It does not hurt you to opt in. It hurts you when you're not opted in. And that's the program that allows us to share resources back and forth during an incident or an event, such as we've seen with Pyramid Lake, where they gave us an ambulance and a fire engine, and we've used them in a couple of incidences through COVID, and then they were reimbursed for their services. So it Doesn't make you have to share resources, but it provides you the ability to share those resources and even the ability to bill for those in certain circumstances. We discussed a New Year's Eve mission at the statewide with the Guard and the division to make sure that we were protected during New Year's Eve, not only in Clark County, but also in northern and eastern Nevada with people on call in those regions to make sure that we were able to respond to anything that could happen. And we discussed election integrity issues. We did a tabletop exercise with the Secretary of State's office right before the elections and had the key emergency support functions, or as we like to call them, the essential support functions, with us to talk through the issues of the what ifs if something happened during election security. So we gave a report out, not only on that tabletop, but also how the election integrity process went and then plans moving forward. We have a very good friend as the Secretary of State's Deputy Secretary responsible for elections that is very heavily engaged with us on wanting to find ways to do more tabletops, more outreach. So that way we make sure that we do maintain that election integrity. We don't have issues from a homeland security threat or from fiber outage, power outage, fire in a polling location, a snowstorm in a polling location, all those different things that disrupt our ability to vote. They want to make sure we talk about ahead of time, so that way local responders can adequately do what needs to be done to keep that election process going. And that was the gist of the Homeland Security Commission meeting. On C, the Finance Committee, we have not had a meeting of the Finance Committee since the last meeting of this one. So I'll move past that. We'll go to D. This is the Nevada State Emergency Response Commission with Lance. And Lance, are you on the call?
Yeah, I am. Thanks, Dave. Lance Chandler for the record. We had our first quarter meeting January 12th, and due to the timing of that meeting, the flooding that was going on dominated a lot of our conversation. Our next meeting is scheduled for April. I don't have the date in front of me. I wanted to remind everybody that HMEP mid-cycle grants are still available through CERC. The Opti grant will be opening in March. United We Stand will be opening in April. And a quick reminder to save the date, Fire Shows West is going to be September 26th through 29th this year. End of report.
Awesome. Thank you, Lance. And then Nevada Interstate Mutual Aid Committee, Eric Wilson.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Eric Wilson for the record for DEM. The Interstate Mutual Aid Committee meeting was held on December 7th of last year. The first thing that we did was we introduced 4 new members of the committee. We also reviewed real-world EMAC deployments from June to November of 2022, of which there were none, but we did develop some mission-related packages for Hurricane Ian, but none were selected for deployment. We went over the importance of mission-related packages and reviewed some mission-related packages which were submitted for the Governor's Office of Energy. The most important thing that we did, I believe, is we announced that the Ely Shoshone tribe has passed a resolution to become the 6th tribal nation to join the Interstate Mutual Aid System. We're very excited about that and happy because it's absolutely critical to have tribal participation to ensure comprehensive incident response for the state. End of report.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Does anybody have any questions on any of those 4 meetings that we discussed, the INRAC, the Commission on Homeland Security, the CERC, or the Interstate Mutual Aid Committee? I do want to give huge props to Ross for in a very short amount of time as emergency manager for the Ely Shoshone tribe to already get them on board with the mutual aid program. So thank you, Ross. You're doing a lot of good work out there in Ely. We'll move on to item number 13. This is updates from FEMA Region 9's tribal liaison. Kristen, go ahead, ma'am.
Just to do an overview of some of the activities that I had over the last couple of months. Obviously attending a lot of the tribal-based meetings, not only for the state, but for the region itself. We are in the process of finalizing our cultural awareness video that will be shown internally as training for some of our staff, and obviously it will be shared with those who have participated and anyone else who wants to kind of take a look to see how it turned out. We're just waiting for external affairs to kind of get the final touches on that. went out and talked to some of the tribes, been in contact with them, especially over the winter events, not only here, but in California, helping support our California tribal liaisons with their efforts while they're deployed to their disasters. I'm helping cover their COVID and public assistance issues, as well as monitoring Arizona. My counterpart down in Arizona is having fun. He's got a lot of technical assistance and a couple of emergencies going on down there. So our team at Region is keeping pretty busy, but a lot of good stuff for Nevada. Knock on wood, we don't get hit with anything major. Just continuing to monitor. I sat down with the tribal liaisons for the state this morning to kind of go over a 2023 activity calendar, so they can meet some of their project and grant deliverables while I go out and assist where I can. Obviously, coming in March, if you're interested in going to CDP's Tribal Training Week, I can get you the information. There's still spaces available. It's free for the tribes to attend. You just got to register and CDP will handle all of your travel arrangements. There is our TPW that was held in August here in Reno. We're in the planning phases of that now. They're looking at June 2023. Most likely it's going to be held in the Phoenix, Arizona area. More to come on that. We're just getting some information back from our contractors about venue locations. And our partners in recovery and mitigation, there's a community planner position open. It's on USA Jobs website. However, they kind of want a tribal person on their team. So if you know anyone who's interested in community planning for the region, let me know and I'll pass on the information. Obviously, you can jump on USA Jobs. Other than that, pending any questions, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Any questions for Crystal? The best Region 9 in the state of Nevada tribal liaison officer there is. I do want to give huge props to Crystal too, because Crystal did a fantastic job with Jay and Josie. They're going to meet every week now and kind of coordinate where they're headed and make sure that we're all on the same page doing work together jointly rather than and showing up one week one person and next week another person. I want to make sure that we're all coordinated and great work there. Crystal leading that charge for us. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll move to item number 14. This is updates from the tribal liaison staff here at DEM.
Yes, Jay Martin here for the record. Our ITCM convention that was held back in December, we provided 3 sessions there. One G402 overview for ICS was the intention. And then we had our suicide prevention 101 course and our tribal emergency management 101 session as well. They were very well received, and we had our handouts, of course, were the National Incident Management System Preparedness Framework from DEM. As all the EMs have gotten and a few tribal chairs have gotten in the past, they just got that again. We had our emergency managers contact list for the state. And then we had our program for our offered sessions and information on the NTECC program, as well as our guest speakers. We're all in there. Everyone received an emergency response guidebook, as well as a NIMS field guide for incident command systems. And we, of course, went over all of those resources in our talks. For item B, the Nevada Tribal Action Plan is a project that is ongoing, as we spoke about earlier. We're really excited to have that out for the state to have our action plan in place for how we will be working with the tribes. Our tribal communication boxes is another ongoing working project. We are hoping to be able to replace a lot of the communications equipment to ensure that the tribes always have an open line of communication with the state and other partners in case of an incident. Our activity rollout plans for 2023. As Crystal mentioned, we were working on our plans for the next 6 months. We will be beginning our tribal tours within the next 6 months. I began mine just last week with a few of our Southern Nevada tribes. And we have a lot planned for doing cross training, and especially for our underserved populations that require more information on emergency management. So we'll be getting all that together very soon and be out and about. I will also be presenting tomorrow at the Tribal Emergency Managers meeting tomorrow to talk about emergency management training opportunities and so forth. That is all for me. Josie?
Josie Burnett for the record. Hi, everybody. Just going back to the tribal comms boxes. I have purchased all of the SIM cards for the satellite phones. So during our tribal tour coming up springtime, I'll be distributing those. If not, I could also mail them out to each of the tribes as well. And then as for the tribal tours specifically, I will be working on assisting the tribal health clinics on their hazard vulnerability assessments, the HVAs. I've already pushed out some informational materials as well as templates just to get those out ahead of time before we make our tribal tour. So I'll be visiting all of the clinics and updating those. Moving down to the Rural Preparedness Summit, Rachel already talked a lot about this already. Basically on the tribal side, I'll be working with the state team to incorporate tribal specific trainings, content. So if there are any suggestions, like Rachel said, you can push those ideas to me. And then we have the Nevada Emergency Preparedness Summit, NEPA, coming up in March. That'll be the 20th through the 22nd. However, the first day on March 20th will be the pre-summit training open to all attendees with no extra fees associated. We will be having the ICS 402 overview for executive leadership course, which has been requested by several tribes. So we highly encourage that you can attend, that you can make that a course as long as some of the other trainings. The rest of the agenda for the next couple of days moves through disaster housing, preparedness and recovery, diversity, equity, and inclusion, working with the National Guard, response and recovery planning, and then disability access and functional needs, and tons of other items to talk about. And then moving down to the fall preparedness regional workshops, those come up in September and October. This last year, we had those workshops, 3 regional workshops that went over THIRA, SPR, mitigation, grants, and planning efforts. So those were really helpful in bringing all of the local, county, and tribal partners together. We had a lot of excellent feedback, so we're highly encouraging our tribal partners to attend those again as well. Those will be broken up similar to last time. 2 of those will be held in the north, Carson City and Elko, and the last one would be held in Las Vegas. And it would just be a really great opportunity for the tribes to get to know your partners in your county, and you can work on plan development and take advantage of those exercise opportunities that you need to get completed. And lastly, potential workshops ideas for tribal participation. So this morning, Crystal, Jay, and we kind of discussed this idea to tag alongside the Fallon Rural Preparedness Summit. So we're looking at holding a 2-day workshop to coincide with the summit, just revamping the Nevada Tribal CERT conference that was held several years ago. So Community Emergency Response Team conference. We haven't really gotten into the inner workings of the agenda quite yet, but we circled around a few ideas to incorporate opportunities for pod activities, possible exercise or tabletop. We would like to incorporate AFN, so access and functional needs component. And then also looking at holding a Stop the Bleed training because we have materials, training kits to distribute. So I would like to pose to NTECC, if you have any feedback on this idea right now, it'd be greatly appreciated if this is something that the tribes would be interested in attending. Danny?
Hey, Josie, when you do your planning for your tribal CERT, can I be a part of that committee also?
Most definitely.
Thank you.
We appreciate it, Daniel. Are there any other questions or comments about the idea of holding the CERT conference or any other potential workshops? Again, we just want to make sure that we're being inclusive in developing events that are specific to meeting all of our needs or needs of all the tribes. No other comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Josie. Thank you, Jay. Any questions, comments, concerns for the two of them or any other ideas on what we should be working on for you? I can plug one item. I really want to plug those regional workshops because that's where we get the county emergency manager, the city emergency manager, the fire chief, the sheriff, and then tribal nations. You can all sit in one room and talk to each other. The ones we did last year were phenomenal to have some of the conversation, to build some of those relationships. And that's where, to me, I think we can really help you guys and our county emergency managers try to work better together, especially when we go through the LEPTs, the local emergency planning committees. That way we make sure that the tribal component is represented on those LEPTs as well in each of our communities. You know, and Ross came to one out there in Eastern Nevada last year. And I think Danny came to one here in Western Nevada. I think Don came to one here in Western Nevada. There were really good conversations that were had by the people sitting around the tables. Because when you're just sitting there and you don't actually have anybody recording you, we're all a little more free with what we say. And when someone says something stupid, all of us are not shy and we'll say something to that person. And those discussions I thought were fantastic that we had there. And we had health out there with us. We had NDOT with us. We had just about every state agency that's in the ESF partners represented in one way, shape, or form. So it's a great place to have some of those discussions and concerns raised. So I'm going to move on to item number 15. This is the FEMA audit results for the federal fiscal year 2022 and 2023 for the division. Jared Franco.
Thank you, Chief. Jared Franco for the record. Last meeting, I discussed the plethora of audits that DEM has gone through over the past couple of years, both on the federal and state side, all resulting in no findings and huge praise for our grant staff. If you would like to review those, they are located in last meeting's meeting minutes. So go ahead and take a look at that. But since our last meeting in November, DEM has already begun 2 more audits. The first one that begun in January on the 13th with Ike Bailey, who is Nevada's contracted state audit firm. They requested documents to conduct an audit for the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund. That's about all the information we have on that audit right now. We're still waiting on the findings or any other information, but we'll be sure to keep all of our committees apprised of that information. Most recently, last week, we held a opening conference with Nevada's executive audit branch to meet about a starting audit that will begin now. They requested some documents. This audit will span over the next 6 months. While we're gathering these documents and giving them to the audit branch, the next steps will keep everyone apprised of that as well. And of course, their major focus on the documents they requested were also the grants that we manage and sub-receipt out to our local jurisdictions. So that wasn't a very big surprise, but like I said, we'll keep all of our committees apprised of the information following. And with that, that's the end of my report. If anyone has any questions or comments.
Thank you, Jared. As we've talked in the past, it's important for me to maintain our transparency. You guys help us with the grant process and we come and audit you. So I want to make sure that you guys know that audits that we undergo and the audits we undergo, I can't believe the number of them that we get all the time. It's a recurring theme. So being a local emergency manager is actually kind of now, wow, we didn't have that often. Whereas here, it seems like every week somebody shows up to audit us. So just want to make sure we're sharing that information. We're transparent. We welcome audits. That way we can learn from them and get better for the future. So any questions for Jared on this? Okay, I'll move on to item number 16, and this is the grant status report with Suze Coyote. Suze will give us an update of the various grants the division's managing that are of interest to the committee or the council.
Good afternoon, Suze Coyote for the record. In your package, you should have received the grant status report along with the meeting materials. All grant programs with open subawards are listed in the report. It shows the subrecipient agency, project, original award amount, reobligated funds received, amount spent as of the last reporting, the funding stream or grant, and any deobligated amount, and the percentage of awards spent as of the last report received. The federal reporting narratives for Homeland Security Grant Program and Nonprofit Security Grant Program are attached, which provides program updates for those programs as of the quarter ending September 30th, 2022. And the FY22 EPWG grant application has been released in Zoom Grants, and applicants may complete their application so we can award those grants. The DEM submitted the application for the state and local cybersecurity grant program, which was due November 15th, and the draft of the plan has been submitted to the state and local cybersecurity grant program officer and CISA for review and approval. Also in your meeting materials is the late reporting, which is at the end of all of the grant reporting. And that is as of December 31st of 2022. And Jared will, are you briefing on the policy? Jared will brief out on the policy, but I wanted to mention that there are two corrections, since if you receive this information during the NRAC meeting on the quarterly grant report, that's the first one in the attachment, there's a highlighted in yellow grant, a correction where we had applied the funds to the wrong grant. And we've corrected that in our records, and we're reflecting that in our report out to you. And there's also a correction pending on the late reporting. It hasn't been finalized, but we wanted to highlight that there was a challenge to that report, and it's under review right now. And that's noted in the late reporting report, which is at the end of the grant reporting materials. And unless you have any other questions, end of report.
Thank you, Suze. I'll just give a brief overview of really an existing policy that we're just gonna do a better job at reinforcing. That's our late reporting policy. One of the things that we're really trying to do a better job of is accurately and timely track the amount of grant dollars that we currently have left in all of our grants. And by this new, well, not a new policy, but existing policy of ensuring that the QFRs and QPRs are done in a timely manner will really help us do that. So the policy that we're going to be reinforcing, everyone should have got a bulletin about this in more detail, but I'll just give a quick overview. The policy includes the ensuring that your QPRs and QFRs are submitted timely to ensure. There's a couple big reasons that this is important. One is for my staff to ensure that their workload isn't sporadic and chaotic. And the second one is so that we can accurately and timely track any grant dollars that might need to be deobligated so that they can be re-obligated back into the jurisdictions and we don't send that money back to the feds. So the way it's going to work is we're going to do our part to help remind everyone as well by inputting into Zoom grants. You'll receive notification 2 weeks before your QFR and QPR reportings are due. That'll be an automatic reminder that's sent from Zoom grants through the email that's on the award. As well as the day your report is due, another reminder will be sent through Zoom grants. And then 2 weeks after your reporting is due, so 2 weeks when your report is late, basically, it will be another automatic reminder that comes through Zoom grants to remind you, hey, you know, we're 2 weeks past due date. Please get your reporting in. The big change that we're placing on this policy is something that we never want to happen is the 30 days after your due date, I'll be writing the subrecipient a letter stating that, you know, if this reporting isn't caught up immediately, we'll have to take the steps necessary to administratively close the grant to ensure that we don't lose out on the money, to ensure that you all don't lose out on that money. So that will happen at 30 days. The next mark will be at 60 days. And this is a letter that will come from the state administrative agent, Chief Fogerson, stating that your grant will be administratively deobligated due to a lack of following not only DEM's policy, but a federal policy as well. It gives me anxiety even mentioning those two late reporting, letters, because it's something, again, we do not want to happen, but it's something that we have to do as the state administrative agent to ensure that we're properly managing this grants, not only from the state level, but from the federal level, because as you can see, they're both constantly in our business auditing us every year. So that's a quick overview. If you didn't get the bulletin that was sent out on the listserv, please let us know and we'll get it to you. That'll go in more detail, and maybe I wasn't very clear, or you couldn't understand what I said. Maybe it'd be easier to read it, but just let us know if you didn't receive it. If you have, other than that's the end of my report. If anyone has any questions or comments.
So what's a QFR?
So a QFR is a quarterly financial report, and a QPR is a quarterly progress report. They're two separate reports, but they both have to be submitted together. Now, the progress report tells us the progress of your previous quarter grant activities. The quarterly financial report is what you submit for reimbursement of your previous quarter's purchases.
Crystal, sounds like you got a question?
I do. Crystal Harjo from Region 9 for the record. So this kind of came up in the conversation I had with the tribal staff this morning. some of the tribes do receive EMPG funding. However, they may have reporting issues due to the fact that they can't meet their in-kind match. Can you explain how they can do in-kind matches or grant matches, especially since some of these tribes may be new, or they may have new people in those positions who are handling them? I know that was a challenge in the past, but maybe kind of refreshing about that in kind, if that's been a challenge for them with their reporting.
Absolutely, Crystal. Yeah, and that's another thing that we here at DEM and the grant staff are trying to do is more technical assistance. We're doing meetings before the official grant year kicks off, before every grant's released. Not to push your question aside, but that's a pretty long-winded answer that we could have a whole nother meeting about. But it's something that should have been agreed upon before the grant was signed for and awarded. But if there are issues, or if there is issues reporting, please don't hesitate to call our staff, because they will gladly help and look into the issues that you're having to try to solve those. And I don't want this to be something that we depend on, but there are certain grant matches that DEM holds in case of emergencies to weather the storm, as they say, sometimes when there's an issue at hand. But if there's an issue that certain people need help with, please call us offline and we can take care of that for you.
I think this is a great tie to, again, those regional workshops we had. I believe this was an hour-long presentation that I probably laughed more at grants than I've ever laughed before, that Sue's put on with our prior grant manager, Sam. And the two of them did a great job explaining that whole grant match process that even I understood how to do it afterwards. So it is something a little longer winded than an easy answer in a commission and a council meeting. So I encourage you to come to those meetings, encourage you to reach out to our grant staff. They are very nice, very knowledgeable, very good people that can help you with those issues. Any other questions for Suze or for Jared? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 17. This is the threat and hazard identification and risk assessment stakeholder preparedness report. I believe Lisa Christensen is going to report back on this one, right? I just wanted to see you have to look up to the face. No, this one's actually.
I was going to say, can you repeat the question, please? I didn't hear.
This is actually why Bill Elliott will present the results of the annual THIRA and state preparedness report. Thanks for playing along, Lisa.
Good afternoon. This is Bill Elliott with Division of Emergency Management for the record. I'm going to go over our executive summary for the Threat and Hazards Identification Risk Assessment, THIRA, and the Stakeholder Preparedness Review, SPR. Now, it's executive summary because the actual THIRA is several hundred pages long, and if you really want to read it, it's probably a good remedy for insomnia, but I will give it to you. As Josie said, that we had a number of meetings, 3 meetings and regional meetings throughout the state to talk about a number of issues, which THIRA SPR was one of them. And we had tribal representation at each one of those avenues. And just the overview of the THIRA is that from a results perspective, we found that at a 4-to-1 ratio, we had increases in investments over losses, meaning we've increased our capabilities over decreasing them. The THIRA process looks at identifying the threats and the hazards that jurisdictions may come across. We establish targets based on the 32 core capabilities. And then we look at, based on those core capabilities and what we think are the capability targets, we define what the jurisdiction's capabilities are based on those targets. And we look at them, and then we analyze the capabilities and to see what the gaps are and what the priorities may be to bridge those gaps. So the overall results, we had constant themes in the overall results. One, Nevada doesn't get enough funding to make real reductions in organization and equipment. And that's why we have to rely on planning, training, and exercise to increase our capabilities. COVID was a stress on everyone, and one of the things that was pointed out was that low wages in Nevada have resulted in loss of skills and expertise and reduction in core capabilities, especially in the public safety and emergency management fields. We do have 3 priorities based on the THIRA results. The first priority is operational coordination. The second priority is operational communications. And the third priority is supply chain security and integrity. Those are our main concerns. In the past 3 years, we've prioritized 3 different capabilities each year for our EMPG funding, so that we can look at them to try to improve them and to make inroads to meet our target, our capabilities target. And as you can see in the report that we gave you, some of there are some similar capabilities that pop up every year. Logistics, supply chain management pops up just about every year. That doesn't mean that we haven't not made inroads on in that capability. In fact, we've made some significant inroads. It's just that the gap has been so much for so long that we still make that a priority. So in this, we've identified the threats and hazards, and our threats and hazards include earthquakes, active assailants, wildfire, hazardous material spills, flooding, and cyber attack. Those are our big ones that we have in the state of Nevada. So looking at our capabilities, I'm not going to go over every one, but I'm going to just highlight some of the ones that we're seeing negative trends and positive trends. Negative trends we've seen with operational coordination, on-scene security, protection, law enforcement, fire management and suppression, operational communications, and we've seen increases in community resilience, which was one of our priorities in the past year, mass care services, public health and EMS services. So those are some of the ones that we have gained in capabilities in the past year. So we're going to do this every year. We're going to do it at our regional summits, and we definitely need tribal representation to participate, because this isn't just Southern Nevada's THIRA. It's not just Nevada rural THIRA. This is the whole state's THIRA, and the tribes are really important for us to get what their capabilities are, their threats and hazards, and the capabilities that they have, and what the gaps are. It's really important for us to understand that and to make that part of the overall Nevada THIRA state preparedness report, stakeholder preparedness report. Pending any questions, that's in my report.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions for Bill? So any of you have been around for a couple of years, you remember how painful THIRA used to be. In fact, I still have a stick that is in my office that Joe Curtis, who retired Story County, gave me to poke my eye out if he ever had to come to another one of these. They're very painful, and that's why I asked this year, hey, this executive summary should be an executive summary. We shouldn't be sending out a 700-page document to people to try to have floated through that. But I want something simple, something easy to read. And if you do nothing else, I ask you to do two things. Read page 2, because on page 2, everything's summarized on one simple page of all the results. And then flip through the colors. Take a look at the reds in the back. All those reds are, in my case, because in this case, it's kind of an orangey. Those are things that we need to make sure we're working on. So make sure we're looking at those. That way we can see what we fix in the future. That way we buy down our risk and we don't constantly just keep having the same issues over and over and over again. I like to make sure that we're actually doing good stuff with our monies and with our relationships to make our state more resilient. So thank you for that. We'll move on to item number 18 now. This is closing public comment, same rules as before. If you have public comment and you're on the phone, *6 to unmute yourself. Any public comment in Zoom world? Ross, you got anything for us? Okay, any public comment on the phone, *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, see no public comment, we'll move to item number 19. This is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion. This is Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Ken
First,
Klein for the record. I'll second it.
second, Ken. Any discussion? All in favor of going home, say aye.
Aye.
Here.
Ross, I get your thumbs up because I know you're having sound system issues there. Any opposed and want to stay longer? Say no. Looks like meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. You know our phone numbers, you know our emails, you know where we live. Come talk to us if you need something. Thank you.
See you.